This wasn't so much a place to help people as it was to get rid of them. We are headed to the location of the original Lakeshore Asylum in Knoxville, Tennessee. Before we get started, for you to better understand what it is we're setting out to do, we need you to understand a little bit about the history of Lakeshore. While our main focus here refers to the original Lakeshore Asylum, I want to be clear. First, we are going to show you the current Lakeshore Mental Institution. Now, these two buildings, while affiliated, are at least 5 miles apart. The original building burnt down sometime in the 1920s. There was never even a civil trial. Nobody knows why or how. Alright, this is Lakeshore Mental Institution, currently known as Lakeshore Park. Lakeshore officially closed its doors on June 29th, 2012. Over the years, it housed thousands of East Tennessee's criminally insane patients. Nearly all of the patients were here by court order, most violent offenders. The Lakeshore that stands today is immensely more appealing than the original structure. This was a place to house people with ailments that, at the time, the most brilliant doctors just had no understanding of. And especially referring to the original structure, this was a time in which mental illness was equally as hard to accept as possession. These people's family members would become violent overnight, seemingly for no reason. Also, to clarify, while the majority of later cases were court-ordered criminally insane offenders, the earlier you go, the more you would see people committing their family members just for lack of understanding what was wrong with them. At these times, autism could have been mistaken for a possession. And unfortunately, a lot of our current medical conditions just didn't exist in the books back then. So without the proper procedures, this would turn from a jail sentence into a death sentence. It was not uncommon once you were admitted for patients to die. It's also commonly speculated that the guards and staff members would abuse the patients. At the time, it wasn't so much of a hospital as it was a jail. A lot of the methods in which they used to restrain or take down the patients would not be considered humane by today's standards. These people were treated like animals. Lakeshore Mental Health Institution officially closed its doors for good on June 29, 2012. The state called this a purely financial decision. What once stood as its origin, known as the East Tennessee Asylum, or as it is more commonly referred to, the Asylum by the Lake, along with the stories of the patients who once called it home and the fire which burnt it down, remain a mystery.
Bloody Mary, the Bell Witch, the Ghost of Drury Lane. All of these are historically and culturally significant, but I've never seen any proof of ghosts.
So you don't believe in ghosts then?
I've never seen a door open on its own. I've never heard a voice in my head. I've never seen an apparition moving around in the night. I've never seen anything that couldn't be explained scientifically.
What do you know of Lakeshore Asylum?
I've been on the grounds. Pretty much everyone in town has. No different than an abandoned factory.
Would you be willing to come with us to the original hospital?
In order to get into Lakeshore, you have to walk down a long gravel driveway. It's probably a good quarter-mile long.
Having someone on the team who had already been to the facility will be a huge help.
And what we did was we snuck through the fence. We knew that the owner did live back there. Somebody lived back there that did shoot at people on other occasions, so we took off running through the field so we could get through without being seen. Then when you get to actual Lakeshore, you have to go around to the side, and there's a basement window, which is the only entry that we knew of. So once you get in there, you start out in the basement, and everything's burned down, and it's pretty weird looking. Then you have to, in order to get upstairs, there aren't any stairs that are really accessible. So there's sheet metal that goes around the staircase, which is very strange, but it's very loud and noisy all throughout the entire building.
I guess it was about 3 years ago when I took my first trip to what I thought was the original Lakeshore. Me and some friends had visited Lakeshore Park and went to one of the buildings there that I thought was supposed to be the abandoned Lakeshore that everyone talked about. Much to my dismay, it was not the same. While it was creepy with patient information scattered about, mangled parts of the ceiling hanging down, definitely tough to navigate through the building, and there were definitely some paranormal aspects of it, but nothing like the time that I actually got to visit the original Lakeshore. When we got down the driveway, we approached the building and realized that we had to crawl through a very small window that led you into a basement.
What did it look like when you got inside?
It was a very dark, cold room, very chilly feeling, very thin air, lots of black, ominous space for your mind to wander. I think that the most prevalent thing that all of us noticed was the feeling and the sense that something was with us. Whether it was human or inhuman, there was definitely a presence that we were not alone there. Not saying we were welcome or weren't welcome, but definitely that we weren't the only ones in the building.
Would you ever go back to Lakeshore? Why are there so many reports of people experiencing paranormal phenomena in that facility? Why did the original Lakeshore facility burn down in the first place? And why did no one in the town do anything to find out why?